Well, when I retired from the Navy in 1963, Westinghouse employed me as operations manager for the small man submersible program. And the first operations were utilizing the Cousteau diving saucer off the coast of California. We agreed with Cousteau's organization to have his diving saucer and a crew brought to California, where I was to take charge and operate off the coast. Amongst the crew were Andre Laban, who was Cousteau's chief engineer, and Albert Falco, who was Cousteau's chief diver. They were the two pilots of the diving saucer. And then I had 3 other engineers from Westinghouse to join the crew. We mobilized onto an offshore supply boat as an operating base and had a contract with Scripps Institute to conduct dives off the coast of California. We conducted 50 to 60 dives in the Scripps Canyon area off San Diego, and then we were told to mobilize to go to the Sea of Cortez for 6 weeks of diving. And we mobilized a different support ship with living quarters on board, portable living quarters, and a handling crane. And we headed for Sea of Cortez. We based in Cabo San Lucas for the operation. It was quite an interesting operation. Several of the divers that we had on board were interested in current studies at the bottom, and one of the scientists had the idea that you could tell by the beer cans that were on the bottom what the current patterns had been because of the shift of sediments. Well, that was shot down early, but one occasion that was interesting, the divers one day we were all through diving, they went fishing, and they brought back about a 150-pound grouper, and the 2 Frenchmen decided that they wanted the liver. So the cook prepared a large serving of liver for them, and the next day they dove the submarine, and we found we were running short of oxygen for some reason. We came back and found that they were both deadly, not deadly, but very sick. And we had a doctor on board. He checked them and said that they were going to be sick for about 6 weeks and wish they were dead, but they would be all right. They peeled from head to foot as a result. But other than that, we had no unfortunate occurrences. And we returned to San Diego, and the saucer and the French crew returned to France. And a few months later, Cousteau had finished building a new submarine for Westinghouse, the Deep Star 4000. And I went to Marseille to take delivery of it and bring it to the States. And we brought it to San Diego, and there was no testing facility available to put that size of hull into it to pressure test it. It was designed to dive to 4,000 feet. So what I did was purchase a 6,000-foot piece of 1-inch braided nylon to handle it with, and lowered it. We took it out to sea and lowered it to 4,800 feet and pressure tested it there. Fortunately, it passed the test with flying colors, and we placed it into operation, continuing the work for Scripps. And then amongst the crew, I had two underwater photographers of some note in the business, Ned Shenton, not Ned Shenton, but Ron Church and Joe Thompson. And so they were designated to be the pilots in training, and we trained them as pilots, and continued the operations off the coast of San Diego for the Scripps Institute. Yeah, during both the operations of the diving saucer, and primarily during those operations, and the follow-on Deep Star operations, I was privileged to meet Captain Cousteau and his wife Simone on several occasions, got to know them fairly well, and enjoyed it a great deal. He was in San Diego on several occasions and always stopped by to see his people that were with me. And on, I don't know, 3 or 4 different visits, I arranged receptions for him to meet people in the business, scientists, politicians, etc. And it was quite interesting to meet with him and work with his people. And meeting Simone Cousteau was very interesting, and she was, I have said many times, the most feminine woman I ever met in my life. She was really gorgeous in her, what would you call it? The way she did things. I mean, she was a lady. She was really a lady. And we had one occasion when there was quite a few newsmen there that wanted to interview Captain Cousteau, and there got to be too many of them. So he asked if half of them couldn't interview Simone. Well, she said fine, except she wanted someone like me to be with her in the interview. I said fine. And that turned out to be quite an interview. She mixed martinis, but it worked out very nicely. But as I say, I enjoyed knowing both of them and respect them highly. We continued the operation of the Deep Star 4000 with a totally American crew, and in all, we completed approximately 500 dives in various areas with, we had a few close calls, but we had no casualties. And I was very proud of that, because this was the first commercial operation of a small man submersible in the U.S. waters. And I had the job of designing the support ship, the operating crane, the living quarters that we used on board, and all of the support system on board. And it served its purpose very well, and I was very pleased with it. And after approximately 3 years with Westinghouse, I received an offer from Electric Boat Division of General Dynamics that I accepted to transfer to Groton, Connecticut, and be their operations manager for 2 submersibles, Star 2 and Star 3. Star 2 was a 1,200-foot capability, and Star 3 a 2,000-foot capability. And one of the main jobs we had with Star 3 was we went up to Thule Air Force Base in Greenland, where a B-52 had crashed on the ice just outside the base. And unfortunately, it was late enough in the season that they couldn't get out there with machinery to inspect the wreckage. They let the ice melt and let the wreckage sink to the seafloor. And then we came in 600 feet of water. We surveyed with the submersible the entire crash site. The Danish government was very concerned about weapons that might be in the wreckage. And we did videotaping of the entire wreckage area with a Air Force officer on the submarine to observe, and then as we brought the tapes back to the base, he would immediately play the tapes for the Danish officials and describe what they were seeing, and that it was an area safe. It caused no problems. And another interesting job we were involved with Star 3 was, I took it to England, and first we had it on BBC as the main topic of a science show, and the name of the show was Science Tomorrow, I believe, something like that, where we had this, bring it into their studio and display it. And after we got it there, of course, it had been shipped on a surface ship, and it was very dirty, as a matter of fact. And I said, well, we had to clean it up, and they said, no, leave it alone, because that would kill any glare from the cameras, which it worked out perfectly. But we had it in the studio, and it was featured in a show that was aired in 1966. And then we went up to the North Sea. Shell Oil had just completed installation of a 36-inch natural gas pipeline from the fields into England. And they couldn't put pressure on it because there was a leak in it someplace. And they had every possible resource out there, including us, trying to find the leak. And we spent about 2 weeks diving out there. And we didn't find the leak. A diving team, which was in the area immediately adjacent to ours, found it. And we operated in several other areas with Star 3, and in total, over the years that I had been with Westinghouse and General Dynamics, I was in charge of over 700 dives, and I think it was a pretty good record because we had no casualties of any kind, and I felt very fortunate.